You're 90 minutes into a movie. It's bad. You knew it was bad at minute 20, and yet you're still watching. Not because it got better, because you've already made it this far. Spoiler, it does not get better. We do this everywhere. The book we won't abandon, the dusty gym membership, the class, the project, the job, the relationship. Things we'd never choose today, but can't seem to walk away from. There's a name for that pull. And no, it isn't loyalty. It's the sunk cost fallacy. It's one of the most quoted ideas in pop psychology, and the real research is even more interesting and a lot messier than the famous short version. Here's the core idea, and this part is genuinely solid. A sunk cost is anything you've already spent, money, time, effort, that you can't get back. And the rule is almost annoyingly simple. What you've already spent shouldn't matter, only what happens from here forward. Economists have known this for a century. Economists also finish bad movies. The movie is a perfect test. That hour and a half is gone, whether you finish or not. So the only real question is the next 40 minutes better than anything else you could be doing? On the scale right now, a bed, a friend, a park. The movie is losing to furniture. If the answer is no, the past is the only thing keeping you in your seat. That gap between what we should do and what we actually do is the sunk cost effect, and psychologists have a very famous demonstration of it. It involves skiing. Psychology was different in the 80s. It's 1985. Two researchers, Hal Arks and Catherine Bloomer, hand people a scenario. Play along. You've bought a $100 ticket for a ski trip to Michigan. A few weeks later, you buy a $50 ticket for a ski trip to Wisconsin. And here's the key. You're pretty sure the $50 trip will be more fun. Then you realize, same weekend. You can only go on one, and neither ticket is refundable. So, which do you pick? The $100 trip or the $50 trip you'd enjoy more? Actually decide. Logically, this isn't close. The money is gone either way, and you just told me the cheap trip is more fun. Take it. But that's not what most people did. Out of 61 people, 33, about 54%, chose the expensive trip, the one they expected to enjoy less. And that barely a majority is the point. It only takes a nudge. The bigger price tag pulled them in. Wasting $100 just felt worse than wasting $50. So they spent their weekend protecting money that was already gone. And if you just picked the $100 trip too, welcome. It's a very big club. So why does the past have this grip on us? Here's an honest caveat. The science doesn't fully agree. The most popular explanation is loss aversion. We're wired to hate losses, so we throw good money after bad to avoid feeling one. Note his technique, eyes closed. That's a real idea, and it's a real piece of the puzzle. It's just not the whole puzzle. Researchers have floated several forces. A simple rule in your head, don't be wasteful, installed by a grandmother around age 6, never updated since. The urge to justify a decision you already made, so you don't feel foolish. The trophy is cracked. He knows. Don't bring it up. Anticipated regret, dodging a future ouch. And yes, loss aversion too. The honest summary? It's a real tendency with a still debated mechanism. The pull exists. The machinery underneath is still being argued about. And there's a second famous study here, A field experiment at a theater with a little detail that changes what it means. The theater sold season tickets, some full price, some discounted by luck, then tracked who kept coming back. Look at him run. No one has ever been that excited about regional theater. In that theater study, full-price ticket holders showed up to more plays early in the season. But that measures attendance, not whether anyone sat through a show they hated. So it's a nice illustration that paying more nudges us to use a thing. It is not proof that we suffer through bad art. Okay, that's the classic story. It's a good one. And it's not the end of it. The last decade of research complicates it in ways that actually matter. First, the good news. The effect is real. This isn't one lucky study, it's 98 of them. Pool them all and it clearly shows up, medium-sized on average. This is not a myth. Real, but messy. If you want more of this, subscribe. So that's the good news. Now for the big but. How big it is, and whether it shows up at all, turns out to depend on the details. 4 quick things, and watch the theme. The closer researchers look, the fuzzier it gets. 1. The measuring tape might be broken. In 2025, researchers checked whether the classic sunk cost questionnaires even measure one clean idea. They barely held together. 2. Time is not just cheap money. You'll hear that wasted time pulls on us less than wasted money. A careful, pre-registered study found it's complicated. In one experiment, money mattered more. In another, time and money looked about the same. Time can act like a sunk cost too, but the money versus time story is mixed. 3. Real money doesn't settle it. In one paid experiment, people clearly fell for it. 23% stuck with a worse lottery they'd earned through effort, versus only 7% of people who were simply handed the same bad lottery. There's that gap again. The sunk cost effect live with money on the line. But another paid experiment found the opposite, no standard effect at all. Science does this sometimes. It's part of the charm. Real stakes don't guarantee the bias appears, but they don't erase it either. 4. And I love this one for a YouTube video. Researchers actually ran a sunk cost experiment on YouTube itself across more than 11,000 videos. In a tightly controlled online task, the effect showed up. But out in the wild, on real videos, no clear effect on whether people kept watching. So the bias that supposedly explains why you're still watching this video might not be why you're still watching this video. Stick around anyway. So, after those 4, the effect is real, the meta-analysis stands. But how big it bites in your actual life depends on the situation. A real tendency, fuzzy edges. One more thing. You might have heard that the classic studies fell apart in the replication crisis. Not quite. The broad effect is well supported. Some of the most famous versions cast you as a manager. Your half-finished project is failing. Do you pour in more money? Business School Classics. He is watering the plant with money. It is not a money plant. But some classic escalation of commitment paradigms, the business decision experiments, replicate only partially. A 2025 rerun of a landmark 1970s study recovered part of it, but lost its signature result. That ski trip demonstration from earlier? That's not the part that's wobbling. So here's where the science lands. The core pull, solid. The dramatic boardroom versions, only partly holding up. 2 different shelves. Quick round of famous mix-ups. Every single one of these fooled me too. Myth 1. Smart trained people don't fall for it. Nope. The original 1985 work found no protection from economics training, and the big meta-analysis agrees. Knowing your economics doesn't reliably shield you. Myth 2. You know the one. People who lost a $10 bill still bought a theater ticket, but people who lost the ticket itself often didn't. Careful, that's a different study by Tversky and Kahneman, and it's about mental accounting, not the sunk cost effect. Myth 3. This is the reason you finish bad movies. Honestly, it may help explain why we finish bad movies, but the bad movie example is an illustration, not the classic study. No experiment nails bad movie completion as its paradigm. It's a great way to feel the bias. It's not the evidence for it. Myth 4. You're stuck with this forever. Actually, older adults tend to fall for this less than younger adults. This one, you might just outgrow. So if the pull is real, what do you actually do about it? First, look at the chain. Note who's holding it. Here's the trick worth keeping. When you're stuck, ask yourself one question. Would I choose this again today, knowing what I know now, starting from scratch? Now, I want to be straight with you. That is not a scientifically proven magic cure. No study has crowned that exact sentence a validated fix. But it works as a reframe, because it does the one thing the bias fights against. It drags your attention off everything you've already sunk and points it at the only question that should matter. From here forward, what has the best payoff? If the answer is no, I wouldn't start this today, then the only thing keeping you in is the sunk cost. That's your signal. And the strongest way to use that question? Ask it in advance. Decide your quit conditions before you're emotionally in it. Minute 20U is a clear-eyed genius. Minute 90U is arguing with a television. I'll give this book 50 pages. If the project isn't working by this date, we stop. Set the tripwire while your head is still cold. So, the sunk cost fallacy is real. It's well studied, but it's a tendency, not an iron law. It bends with the situation, the stakes, even how you measure it. The tidy version makes a better poster. The messy one is true, and honestly, more interesting. Just keep the one question. The 90 minutes are already gone. The only thing you can still decide is what happens next. Would you choose this again today? And if quitting feels backwards, wait till you hear how liking someone works. Asking a favor can turn an enemy into a friend. That's the Franklin effect. Watch that next. It's on your screen right now. See you there.